You may have heard of the car company Tesla. They made electric cars cool. But now, engineers are working on new types of electric automobiles. Meet Kelly, a fuel cell engineer. She designs and builds hydrogen fuel cells. Hydrogen fuel cells are devices that produce electricity to power cars by combining hydrogen and oxygen. Kelly works for NASA, the leading space organization in the United States. NASA uses fuel cells to provide electricity on spacecrafts. Engineers at NASA have been coming up with crazy ideas. They want to find a way to use hydrogen fuel cells to power school buses. Hydrogen fuel cells are being used in cars and other types of vehicles, but never a school bus. Regular school buses can then be replaced with hydrogen-powered school buses. Let's take a closer look at a typical day in Kelly's life as a fuel cell engineer. Today, Kelly gets into work at 9 a.m. after grabbing a donut at Dunkin' Donuts. She heads to her desk and opens her laptop. This morning, she is creating drawings of what the fuel cells will look like that will power the school bus. Engineers often create their drawings on a computer. That way, they can email their drawings to other engineers and get feedback. Kelly's drawings will show different views of the fuel cells, like the top, front, and side views. The drawings will also have all of the measurements of all the fuel cell parts, so they know what the total size of the fuel cells will be. After working on her drawings all morning, Kelly and her team meet with a few principals from local school districts. They want to know more about how hydrogen-powered buses work and the amount of hydrogen fuel that will be needed for each bus. That way, they can make sure that their annual budget has enough money included to pay for the new school buses in the district. Kelly explains that the first step is to have the fuel cells convert chemical energy into electricity. The chemical energy comes from the reaction between hydrogen and oxygen. The hydrogen and oxygen combine to produce water vapor and energy in the form of electricity. Water vapor is a waste product in this reaction, meaning it isn't used or needed. The electricity is then used to power the bus. Here is a model of what this reaction looks like. What do you notice about the products and reactants in this reaction? You might notice that the same amount of hydrogen and oxygen atoms that this reaction starts with is the same amount after the reaction. This can be explained by the law of conservation of matter. This law states that matter cannot be created or destroyed. That means that the mass of the starting materials of the chemical reaction will equal the mass of the products after the reaction. If Kelly knows how much energy the buses will need, she can use the law of conservation of matter to calculate how much hydrogen fuel will be needed for each bus to run their morning and afternoon routes. They will get the oxygen they need to react with the hydrogen from the air around the bus. This is important information for the school so that they can make sure to purchase enough hydrogen fuel. After lunch, Kelly meets with a group of engineers and explains that the school districts are very excited to bring hydrogen-fueled cell buses to schools. The group is extremely excited to finish the drawings of what the fuel cells will look like. That way, they can move on to the next step of building the fuel cells. Once fuel cells are made, they can be installed on the new buses. Then the buses can take a test drive to see how the fuel cells are working. What would you power with hydrogen fuel cells if you had one? Talk about it as a class after the video. Now it's your turn to go on an adventure and be a fuel cell engineer.